Mobile City Planning Commission. I'd like to take a moment to review our general operating procedures. Our meeting is divided into two sessions, the public hearing session and the deliberation session. In the public hearing session, an application or group application on the agenda is called. The applicant makes his or her presentation. Commission members may ask questions, if any, and members of the public may make their comments. Only 4 people may speak for an agenda item and 4 against. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, subject to questions by the commission. After 4 minutes, a loud beep will indicate 1 minute left to speak, and at this point, please summarize your comments. After all opposition speakers have finished, the applicant will be given time to respond. If you do intend to speak, please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, and give your name and address for our minutes. Please direct all comments to the commission only and not to the applicant or the audience. And please remember to speak directly into the microphone. On routine applications, the applicant may simply raise his or her hand if there are no objections to the staff recommendations. I will then announce that the applicant is in full agreement with those recommendations. If there are any questions, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. After hearing all applications, the commission will go into the deliberation session. In the deliberation session, the commissioners discuss each application with input from the staff as necessary, but with no input from the audience. The commissioners then vote on each application. Results of the voting can be learned from the planning department. If some issues arise in the deliberation session that were not addressed in the public hearing, the chairman has the discretion either to allow additional comments pertaining to those issues in order to resolve them, or to call for the application to be held over for discussion at a future meeting. Occasionally, 1 or more commission members may recuse themselves from discussing and voting on a given application. A recusal does not necessarily mean the member is directly involved with the applicant or the application. Depending upon the circumstances, ethical rules may require a recusal when there is only the slightest appearance of a conflict of interest. If a regular member recuses, a supernumerary will vote in their stead unless both are voting due to absences. The Planning Commission makes final decisions subject to appeal on subdivisions, planning approvals, and planned unit developments. The Planning Commission only makes recommendations on zoning applications, with the City Council making the final decisions. Please turn your cell phones off at this time. I'm Libba Latham. Mr. Jay Stubbs. Here. Ms. Shirley Sessions. Here. Mr. Alan Cameron. Here. Mr. Taylor Atchison.
Here.
Mr. Matt Anderson. Mr. Nick Amberger.
Here.
Mr. John Hembry.
Here.
Mr. Kirk Matei.
Here.
We have a quorum. We're going to go a little bit out of order today. Our legal counsel has to leave early, so we're going to hear applications 1 and 7 first, and then we're going to deliberate on those and vote on those, and then we will move to the ones that we didn't cover prior to our deliberation session. Okay? I'd like to call number 1, which is 105 North Jackson Street. Ms. Gill?
Hello, Kawana Gill, 105 North Jackson Street with Canary Bar.
Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am, if I may. I'm Larry Moore. I'm actually an attorney.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Would you like to give us your address, please?
That's Larry Moore, attorney at law, 107 North Jackson Street, Mobile.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Gill?
Yes. I noticed that you are recommended to be denial because the site plan that I submitted July the 15th wasn't accurate or sufficient. I think I'm running into a little confusion because originally when I submitted my information, I was told that I didn't need anything else. And I literally, at the last meeting, maybe like a day or two before reading your comments, I realized that I needed a drawing or a site plan. So because we wasn't changing anything in the exterior or interior, it's the exact same. Just went and found something that pre-existed. And once again, I didn't receive any notifications. I don't know if it's a missight on my part. I only received a letter stating, you know, what was going to happen. And I waited till the comments came out and read again that it wasn't sufficient. So someone recommended Mr. Gant to me as an architect. And as quick as I could, I went to him and told him what was going on, and I got something printed up and submitted it today. So I would like to ask for approval. Is that sufficient? If not, I would like to ask for another holdover for you guys to view it, if that's okay.
Thank you, Ms. Gill. Ms. Pappas? You got the site plan today. Do you need additional time for the
Yes,
city
we
to review
do,
it?
and we would like to suggest it be held over until the September 2nd meeting.
Okay, Ms. Gill, September 2nd?
Excuse me if I may, is
Yes,
there
sir.
anything earlier than the September 2nd, maybe the next meeting? She's trying to get various licenses, and until she gets this approval, she can't move on at all, so that's almost another month. She's been trying this since like April. So if something maybe possible in the next meeting, that's appropriate, possible?
Ms. Pappas, can you address that?
Our concern on that is that the outside deck was not shown on the plans submitted this morning. That affects the occupancy load, which is the nexus of this application. I want to allow adequate time so that if revisions are required on that plan, they are all accommodated and ready for the commission's meeting. I do not think a week, while the next commission's 2 weeks from now. We really only have a week within which to conduct the review and draft the report back to the commission, hence that recommendation for the September 2nd meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore, would you like to address Ms. Pappas' concerns on that?
Yeah, if at all possible, if we could set it for the next meeting, and maybe I get with the office and maybe try to iron out whatever that needs to be ironed out, and if it can't be ironed out, then take us off of the next meeting and put it on the September docket. But I would like to be able to converse with their office before we put it on the, take it, don't allow it to be on the next agenda.
Mr. Moore, we have a pretty defined schedule here, and I think the staff's already working with you, because actually the deadline for the September 2nd meeting is August the 2nd, which is really 3 days, past. So really, if we followed this to the T, you wouldn't be meeting to the September 16th. So I think they're working with you as much as they can. So I hope you would understand and work with them.
And I did speak with the neighbors and rectified that situation.
You beat me to my question. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say to us? It is likely that it will be held over, and
Yes, ma'am.
you can speak as much as you want to today. You can speak again on the day that we hold it over to. And anybody that is here in the audience that would like to speak either for or against has the opportunity to speak now if you'd like, but can also come back on the day that we hold it over to.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to make sure you feel like you've had the opportunity to say everything you want to say today.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else here that that's here today that will not be coming back to the next meeting to address it? Thank you. All right, we're going to take number 7. I know that's out of order, but we're going to go out of order on that. This is 555A Dolphin Street. It has been recommended for planning approval. The applicant, Mr. Atchison, is recused on this one. Is the applicant present? And you're in agreement with all the recommendations? Sorry? Are you in agreement with all of the recommendations? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Is there anyone else here, anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak against this application? Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Ms. Pappas, city have anything they need to address on this one? All right, We're going to go into executive session for just a moment and take up numbers 1 and 7, and then we'll move back to regular order. It has been recommended that the number 1 be held over till September 2nd. I will make that motion.
Second?
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That application will be heard on September the 2nd. Now we'll take up number 7. It is just a planning approval. Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. We will now move on to number 2, which is Staples Road and 4020 Perch Point. It has been recommended for tentative approval. Is the applicant present? And in agreement with all the recommendations? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to it? Thank you. We will move on to number 3, north and south sides of Museum Drive. The application has been recommended for tentative approval. Is the applicant present and has indicated his agreement with the recommendations? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to it? We will move on to number 4, 2810 Circle Court. It has been recommended for tentative approval.
Brett Orrell with Poly Surveying. I think on page 3, right above on the staff report, it speaks to, it's item number 6 on the approval. It speaks to a previous structure that was located on the property between 14 and 17. The current owner purchased the property this year, so did not have any part in any type of structure being demoed without permit. So I'm just asking the commission to stricken that, remove number 6, as they were not part of that process. And I'm not sure how they could obtain a permit for something they didn't construct.
Is that a problem, staff? Is there a burden of proof there? Or?
We'd take a notarized statement from them that the property was vacant when they purchased it.
Okay, easy enough.
Will that satisfy that?
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Orrell. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of that?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to bring to the attention the commission that you do have an email from a neighbor regarding concerns about flooding. It should be a single sheet of paper.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes.
I took a look at this when it was when I was made aware of it, and it does look like the property that's being proposed to be subdivided drains to the west and to the north, all on private property towards, a canal, a little tributary off of Dog River. So I just want that read into the record that, again, it does look like all the property is draining, within private property. It might be that the applicant wants to reach out to the 311 and request some ditch maintenance work to be done, because it does look to be very, very flat along there. And they even acknowledged in their write-up that it was developed long, long, long ago when it was actually in the county. So I just wanted this in the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamburger. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak against it? Commissioners have any? Yes, sir.
I'm actually the person that wrote the email.
Yes, sir. Come on down,
and I
please.
couldn't quite understand what he was saying.
Right,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
McCord,
but
would
I'm a
you?
little hard of hearing.
That's okay, sir.
I understand. Would you state your name for us on the record and
My
give us
name
your
is
address,
Miles
please?
McCord. We own the property at 2818.
Yeah.
I didn't understand quite what you were saying.
So, Mr. McCord, anytime we get an issue like this that's raised, we'll typically go in and look at the topography maps
Right.
and see how the natural flow of the water
Right.
is. And that's what I did. I mean, this is due here at 2818 and 2810, which is the property that's being contemplated for subdivision. If you see the topography maps, the land is flowing to the west, I think as you indicated in your write-up,
Yes.
but it's also flowing to the north, all across private property. So it
Yes.
would be, drainage would be a private property matter for you to work out and work with your neighbors should they choose to build on there. As for any flooding along the street, you should engage the 311 system and request some ditch maintenance work. It does look like the ditches all along there are very, very flat. As you acknowledged, it was developed probably in the or absorbed into the city in the 60s, and so the standards of the day back then were much different than what they were today, but they did look like the ditches probably could stand some cleaning out, some of the driveway pipes.
Well, yes, sir, they definitely do, and my main concern is that if this is not addressed before these people develop the property, and historically, that's been 2 lots. I've lived on Riverside Drive my entire life, 69 years. I remember when there was a family living on the western side of that, the first lot. The second lot to the west that's adjacent to us was actually a garden for years. So it had natural absorption. But with development, property lines, fences, the runoff is inhibited. The very northwest corner of that lot dips down drastically next to ours on the fence line.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And with the heavy rains we've had lately, as often as they've been, I mean, it just becomes a giant puddle back there. It looks like a retention pond.
Sure.
So I don't know what they can do to mitigate that, but anything they do to mitigate that, to direct it to the street, is just going to backflow through the ditches and still create a problem for all of us adjacent to it.
Yeah. Well, matters like this, these are private property matters where the neighbors need to work with one another to
Well, I understand,
everybody
but
coexist.
I don't know who these people are. I knew Miss Archer that owned the property before.
Right.
She actually owns the property that I purchased.
Yeah.
And, I don't
I would
understand.
encourage you to reach out to the property owners, and talk with them, and
Well-
all they're doing today is Right, yeah. Yeah,
Okay, who is that?
Mr. Royal?
Okay, and,
because all they're doing today is subdividing the property into 3. They're not building any houses or anything like that. They are just making
well,
it 3 pieces
I
of land.
understand that, but if they do subdivide it, then somebody's going to want to buy it
Very well
and
could
build
be.
homes there.
Right.
I'd be a lot more comfortable if it stayed 2 lots.
Sure.
Then that wouldn't exasperate or increase the problem that we have.
Yeah, I like to tell folks in my role as a city engineer, good fences make good neighbors, good drainage makes great neighbors. So
Yes,
I
sir.
encourage you to
Yes,
get
sir.
I
Yes,
encourage you
sir.
to get to know them, work together, and so
Well,
if they do start
I've tried to do a
developing
little
it.
investigation to see who bought the property, and I mean, right now, it's at a standstill.
Mr. Orrell will be the one that can help you with every bit of that.
Okay. Well, thank you for hearing me.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCord. Commissioners have any questions? Okay. Thank you. I'm going to number 5, which is 1550 South University Boulevard. It has been recommended for approval, both the planned unit development and just the planned unit development. Sorry about that. Is applicant present and has indicated his agreement with the recommendations? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this motion? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this? Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Thank you. We have, moving on to number 6, which is 3250 Airport Boulevard. The recommendation has been for approval of the planned unit development. Applicant present.
Ms. Latham?
Yes, ma'am.
The company Brixmor emailed staff earlier today. Due to COVID restrictions, they are unable to travel. However, they are in agreement with staff recommendations.
Thank you. Is there anyone here anyone present that would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to it? Any questions by any commissioners? Thank you. We have already handled number 7, so we'll move on to number 8, 161 Dogwood Lane. Staff has recommended denial of a sidewalk waiver application. Yes, sir. Would you please identify yourself for the record
Yes, Blair Fisher, head of school at St. Paul's,
and your address?
161 Dogwood Lane.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So we're asking for the commission to reconsider on safety grounds primarily, if you all are available to have access to look at any of the visual documents that we've provided, the way the flow of the traffic that feeds in and around St. Paul's within the Old Shell neighborhood, the road that we have simply moved a curb cut in that triggered the recommendation for us to purchase or install a sidewalk, that actually is the center of our carpool lane, how our cars actually come into campus. And we actually are trying very hard not to have kids walk down or do anything to encourage kids to cut into that area. We have traffic guards, and we have extensive sidewalks already in place where we're trying to shuttle the kids or to funnel the kids who walk from the neighborhoods across the street to come down to a single entrance and not to be cutting across where active carpool lanes are taking place. We have 2 or 3 lanes of traffic that go through there, and the idea of kids, anything that encourages young students or the walking students to cut into the carpool area is something that we're trying to discourage from a safety standpoint. And so that's why we're asking for the commission to reconsider the recommendation for the safety of our students.
Just trying to understand this application.
Yes, sir.
If a kid had to walk, would that be west on Old Shell? Isn't that right?
The east.
East? Walking down the hill? Yeah, walking down the hill. Do you have students?
There are sidewalks that are already active and offset on Old Shell Road that lead down to the main entrance of the school that we are trying to funnel the kids into along the one area. If you look along Provident Lane where they're wanting us to put in sidewalk, that's actually where the active carpool lanes come into the school, where there's up to 3 different lanes of cars moving, stopping and starting and stopping and turning the corner from Provident onto the next road over. And so what we're trying to do, we already have defined drop-off zones for safety perspectives with traffic personnel outside to keep in those areas, trying to keep the kids safe. And we're trying to make sure that anybody, that we keep the kids out of the carpool line where cars are starting and stopping and moving forward. And by putting anything along the sidewalk along there encourages people to use that road when we're trying to prevent it. Secondarily, it doesn't serve, truthfully, if you're actually on the site, there's no homes along that side that sidewalk would serve. It really would not serve anything except to encourage people to move along that road into the campus at St. Paul's, which is what we're especially trying to prevent.
So what you're trying to prevent is to have people walking on the sidewalk where the cars are staging for pickup before they make that turn.
Yeah, we're asking them to move down. We have a graphic that we provided that's a lot easier to understand. I'm not sure if you all have that. So what if you're looking at that, we're asking, if you look at the top of that graphic, we're asking the students who are walking to walk down Old Shell and then make a right into Dogwood, where there already is established sidewalking in place. So cars do not come in that way. Basically, if you notice the traffic flow, they come in Provident and then make a left along Loyola and then make a right back or left onto Dogwood. So it's a circular traffic flow, and we're trying to keep the kids from walking through the carpool lanes.
Mr. Fisher, do you have any idea how many pedestrians use that area for walking now?
Oh,
I know they're not supposed to, but I just wondered
you mean
if
how are students actually cutting through that currently?
Yes.
There are some who do, and we're constantly trying to encourage them not to. In other words, we have a traffic guard there who kind of reroutes the kids when she can to push them back down the sidewalk where they're supposed to go. Anything that attracts them onto that road is something that we're nervous about, from a fact that there's hundreds of cars stopping and starting and stopping and creating, knowing how kids are who don't necessarily pay close attention, we're afraid of a child getting hit by a car, frankly.
All right?
Yeah, it's kind of,
And sometimes the carpool line people don't pay very close attention either.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
it's kind of an inter-campus issue on a public road. I mean, it's a very walkable area. But I mean, it's kind of, it's a unique problem. I guess you'd have to add a crossing guard there for protection. You don't have a crossing guard at that entrance now?
We have a crossing guard at the intersection of Old Shell and Provident every morning. Yes, sir. But her primary concern is making sure the cars are safe, not trying to shuttle kids in one direction as they come across.
And she is also there in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, she's there in the morning and afternoon. She actually doesn't only serve St. Paul's right there. There's another elementary school across the street with traffic. It's a very high traffic area, and so we're trying to minimize and make the situation as controllable as possible for the crossing guard.
Yeah, there's actually, for the commission, there's actually crossing guards at Provident and Dogwood. Most of the crossing does take place down there at Dogwood. I mean, I think it would be helpful to, you know, if the commission considers this waiver, you know, that making sure that the crossing guard there knows to direct students down to that other
Yes, sir.
activity. And the reality is you know, that entire area, there's very, very little sidewalks in the internal street networks. So in the afternoons and in the morning, people walk almost exclusively in the streets, and it's all the time, all over the place, because there's very little real estate there.
Yes, sir.
The very little bit of sidewalk there, I built myself through a subdivision.
Within Spring Hill, they're working really hard to put sidewalks in wherever they can, because right now it's very unserved, and so the kids are used to walking in the street, but we're trying not to. We don't want them walking in the street on our side of the road for sure. We've hired three. We have three sheriffs that we have hired along Old Shell Road, for one for each of the entrances, and we have multiple school personnel inside along the drop-off zones to keep the kids safe there. It's just we'd almost consider like that sidewalk what I would say like an attractive nuisance that encourages the kids to walk down an area where we're specifically trying to discourage them from walking.
If I could ask a question, and I'm not arguing for or against this, on Dogwood Lane, that's where the carpool exits.
Yes, sir.
So you're funneling the kids to a street that still has traffic. Is there a difference in the argument for no kids on Provident because of carpool versus putting kids on Dogwood where there's traffic?
Understood. Yes, sir. There is already a wide sidewalk in existence on Dogwood, and as they walk in, they're facing traffic. They're not with their backs to traffic.
If I remember correctly, that sidewalk's a little raised above the street, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah.
And it's a wide sidewalk that we're much more comfortable with the kids on, and the fact that they're actually facing traffic as they walk in would make us feel much better about it as well. Where they're deal with 9-year-olds and their decision-making, we're real nervous about that.
It also appears that Provident is a good bit wider than Dogwood, but you did say there were 3 lanes of traffic there, right?
Yeah, there is room for 3 lanes in a pinch. We have 3 lane. There's a couple places where it pinches down to 2 lanes because of existing trees that we'd have to take out and move and utilities and everything. But there currently is 3 lanes, and people cut into the middle lane. And if it's stuck too much, we do our best to control it. But parents who are in a hurry, it can create a chaotic situation at times, and we're trying to minimize that at all, to the greatest degree we can.
Okay. Any other question from the commissioners?
I got one question. So,
Sir?
you're trying to take them off of Provident to cross where the drop-off zone is, but you want to put them on Dogwood. So is there an attendant at Dogwood and whatever that? Loyola?
Well, yes, sir. There are, on the...
Because it seems to me, I don't know, just
Sorry.
my thought is, it seems to me crossing at a drop-off area is safer than crossing at an area where you've turned the traffic loose.
There are crossing guards located along Loyola at the corner, in the center, and at the intersection of Loyola and Dogwood, and also those are internal school paid personnel, and there's a county sheriff or city sheriff who's located at Dogwood and Old Shell. And so the drop-off area is the only place where we allow students to get out of their cars, and that is a supervised area. So the The drop-off zone is for the carpools, cars. What we're trying to do is keep kids from going, from cutting across down through Provident where active cars are moving forward. By shuttling them down, or by funneling them down to the Dogwood entrance to the school, they're actually walking along a large sidewalk where they're facing the traffic coming out with a traffic guard right in front of them to help make sure that they're not cutting back and forth across any kind of traffic lanes.
So my last question is, by not having sidewalk, that's going to ensure that this traffic is not going to come down Provident? The foot traffic?
That's the goal, yes, sir. We already are doing our best to try to mitigate it, and I would say we probably are able to deter 80% of it. But any sidewalking they see, if they're coming down from the north, where many of our students do, they're going to be crossing across the street or across the Provident lane to access that sidewalk.
Okay.
We're trying to keep them under basically as close to adult supervision as possible as they're moving through, accessing the campus.
I've got 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fisher, is there a sidewalk on Loyola Lane on the, I guess, abutting the new development, faculty parking lot development?
There is a sidewalk that is established down the length of that road, yes.
Okay, and then my next question is, coming down Provident Lane with the new faculty parking, how will faculty pull into the new parking? Is it off of Provident Lane, or do they have to come down?
It's
and
off
turn?
Providence, sir.
So you've
Yes.
got a new entry?
Yes, sir, there was a cut. Yeah, we
Okay.
had there was a cut further up where it says Quigley Field, and that, we have moved that, I guess the curb cut, for lack of a better term, to entrance into that parking lot. We've moved down to the corner, so they'd be in the left-hand lane cutting straight in.
So a follow-up question to that, will traffic come in the morning and be turning across eventually what would be the sidewalk into that parking lot?
Yes, sir, which would be another thing, yes, absolutely. So faculty would be turning into the parking lot across the sidewalk that kids will be utilizing.
That's all I've got.
What's that? Thank you for pointing that out. That adds another layer of worry. Thank you.
Any further questions by the commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Any other speakers in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to it? Ms. Pappas, would the staff like to address this?
Sidewalks, as the commission is painfully aware, can be very controversial topics. The city has been working very hard, has adopted a complete streets policy to encourage the construction of sidewalks, because sidewalks are a neighborhood and community asset. You have a situation here where you have sidewalks pretty much around the other 3 sides of this block. You do have a school here, and 2 hours a day, 9 months out of the year, there are concerns regarding students, faculty, and staff safety. But the other 22 hours of the day and the other 3 months out of the year, it's still a community and neighborhood asset. We, of course, support sidewalks being constructed as a matter of planning policy. It could be that there could be a plan submitted to the city to close the sidewalks during carpool hours. Station temporary barricades, sandwich board type signs, things to make it clear that those are not to be used during carpool, because we do not want students or adults walking in the street, which kind of seems to be what the option is in absence of a sidewalk.
Quick question, what triggered this?
The planning approval for the construction of the faculty sidewalk. As a matter of fact, faculty parking lot, not sidewalk. Yes, as a matter of fact, it was a specific condition laid out in the engineering requirements.
Got it, so this is an existing gravel
Condition.
parking lot that they're
They're
doing a new
upgrade.
permit to upgrade, and that
Correct.
triggered a sidewalk.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you, Ms. Pappas. Okay, we will move into our deliberation phase. We have already taken up number 1, so we will start with number 2. 2451 Staples Road and Perch Point Drive. It has been recommended for tentative approval.
Right.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this application? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Number 3, north and south sides of Museum Drive. It has been recommended for tentative approval.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion by commissioners? All in favor of this application?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Number 4, 2810 Circle Court has been, that subdivision application has been recommended for tentative approval.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations, removing item number 6.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on those items? All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item number 5, 1550 South University Boulevard. That planned unit development has been recommended for tentative approval.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendation adopting findings of facts A, B, and C.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Number 6, 3250 Airport Boulevard. Staff has recommended approval of the planned unit development.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations, findings of facts A and B.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Mr. Matei, are you recused on this one? No, sir. Thank you. All right. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. We have handled number 7, so we'll move on to number 8. Application for a sidewalk waiver. It has been recommended for denial.
We move on to now, based on it being a public street that, as Ms. Pappas pointed out, needs sidewalk to adhere with the complete streets the city's adopted, and ask that the applicant work with the city on any safety measures on the sidewalk regarding safety for kids during school hours.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that item?
I do have one discussion point. This one is pretty challenging. I mean, I know it well because I live very, very close to this. And the nature of this location changes from, I mean, literally, it's got seasons almost. I don't know if the whole effort location might be better served if there was a potential gate in the fence right there at Old Shell Road in Provident that let any foot traffic come into the private property. That might be a potential compromise that would let any potential foot traffic not get in the school traffic. I lived the school traffic there for many years, and the school is very strict about making cars and students be dropped off in those drop-off zones. They will not let you get out until you make that turn. So I don't know if that's something the commission might want to consider, requiring a gate or a fence at the corner of Old Shell and Provident. And, the school could police, I mean, obviously the school is policing the traffic there, very, very well. And it might be something that would accommodate it and be a balance of, letting any foot get into the school property, they could control the gate, you know, in school hours, but then not have a path along the street, you know, 24/7. I don't know if that's something we can consider making that a condition or not.
I'm not sure I follow that.
Well,
You're saying,
The-
you're
the
saying
school-
to not build the sidewalk?
yeah, to not build a sidewalk, the school has a fence, this whole area is fenced, it's fenced in is right there. And
Okay, now I see what you're saying.
it's very, very tight with asphalt and landscaping and stuff in this first probably 100 or 200 or so feet. And the hypothetical that there was a gate that the school could police and open a gate during school hours, any potential foot traffic that got past the school guard could come into grassed property. The rest of the time, I'm just telling you, all the neighbors walk in the streets. I see it every day, all day long, because there's very, very little sidewalks, with the exception of Old Shell Road. Of course, Old Shell has sidewalks, but the neighborhoods have little to no streets in them. Around the school is almost an exception rather than a rule. All the residential streets around there, there's just no sidewalks in there to speak of. I don't know if that would.
Would the topography allow, even if we can legally require a gate, I drive by there all the time too, and if I remember right where their sign is, it's kind of a little incline there. I mean,
That's right.
you're asking the kids to go up that hill to a gate.
You'd have to get a little past it. You'd have to get a little past it. Right. There's no doubt it's a less than desirable total set of circumstances. For them to build a sidewalk along Provident, there's large trees. I'm not sure if they're live oaks, but they are very large trees, crepe myrtles. There's a lot of challenges in order to be able to construct a sidewalk along there.
We just have very rarely even considered a denial for a sidewalk that's required in one of the more walkable areas of
Yeah.
town. It sounds like they have an inter-campus problem on a public street.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but also if you're walking on Loyola going west and take a right and go north, you're on sidewalk and then you run out of sidewalk when you get to Provident, and then all of a sudden you're in the street.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. The difference is, though, is you have an active school that's policing it. That's the.
I get that. It just seems like they're going to have a traffic cop at the entrance and exit to this one parking lot seems to be the main issue.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's a challenging
And they
set
don't
of
want kids
circumstances.
crossing at Old Shell and Provident, I think, is one of the big concerns, but
Any further discussion? Mr. Atchison made a motion and it was properly seconded. If there is no further discussion, all in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed.
Would y'all do a show of hands on opposition, please? Thank you. That motion passes. That sidewalk waiver is denied. Thank you very much. Ms. Pappas, do we have any further business?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And I apologize, due to the busy nature of everything going on right now, the mayor was unable to attend, as was Shayla, so I'm sorry, we're way down the totem pole with me. But staff does, and the administration, we do want to recognize the years of service given to this commission and this community by Mr. Don Hembry and Ms. Libba Latham. This is their last meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Pappas.
You get a key to the city.
You did?
Do we
There you
really?
go.
Yes, it's digital.
Digital key.
Anyway, Mr. Hembry has served on this commission since January 23rd of 2013. Ms. Latham has served since July 28th of 2014. That is a lot of service. A lot of incredibly good work has been done during that time. The commission worked on the Downtown Development District regulations and their subsequent amendments. The above-ground storage tank ordinance, which, yes, another painful topic, but it required a lot of effort by the commission members. And then, of course, most recently, the adoption of the UDC. Both of you have been incredible hardworking members of the commission and from the staff. We will miss your presence very much. Thank you so much for serving, and I will bring these to you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank
And I'd
you.
like to say just a couple words real quick. I'd like to, thank the staff. The staff, y'all have been amazing. We all know who does all the hard work behind the scenes. So thank y'all from Bert, Margaret, Shayla's not here. Everybody, y'all done an amazing job. So thank y'all so much for what y'all do, because we know that y'all keep things moving forward. So I think Libby and I's next task is to continue to work to get the city line extended further out into West Mobile. So,
And south.
yes, that's right.
Yes.
So that's our next task. So we look forward to that day, and hopefully it'll be soon.
Ms. Pappas, I'd like to say thank you too, and thank you, Mr. Anderson. You've been immeasurably helpful as well. The commission is in great hands. I love all the new blood coming in, and y'all are going to do great. I can't wait to sit at home and watch you on my computer. Thank you so much. Well, I'll sit at my office and watch y'all. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. No, I'm interested in it.